Hi everybody, welcome back to Missy's Imaginings. Thanks for coming by today. I have a whole list of things that I wanted to go over, and then we're going to start a project. So just to keep you updated on what's going on, we had the doll show last weekend. I have 2 doll cases that are now finished. I'll be showing those in a minute. So those, we're on a couple doll groups for a while just to let everybody know they're available, but they're going to be moving to eBay. And so I have 2 finished and 3 more to finish up. Then I went to Joann and loaded up on some fun things, so I thought I'd show you what we have. So they have these new little bags, Life's a Peach, which is cute. I had to get 2. And I found some really cool fabric. I know some people have asked me about where I get stuff, and I think you just have to keep looking because their stock changes. And I went in yesterday and I noticed that some of the real pretty oriental jacquards are cleaned out. There was only like 1 design. So if you find something you like, you have to get it and go because you don't know how long it'll be there. But I found a gossamer, a metallic gossamer tool that is really cool. And I should probably put something dark. Oh, here, my glasses case. Underneath it, so it's a gold metallic mesh. It almost looks like spider webs, kind of, or the silver kind of looked like crystal on a window pane when it's frozen. They had purple, blue, red, silver, gold, I think a lavender. So there was lots of colors. So if that's something you think you could use, you might want to hop over there before they disappear, because I don't know how long they'll be there, but it's just in the special occasion fabrics and, you know, with chiffons and stuff like that. But I couldn't find any silk, so you never know. You never know what you'll find. But anyway, I thought this was kind of cool. It'd be a neat overlay, so I thought, well, we'll get some of that and try it out. So I got the gold. Also, there was some really cool, like, spandex knit tie-dye, which was fun. So I got some of that. That'll be fun for t-shirts. So we got that. And I found they're getting back a larger supply of fur, which for a while Joann's didn't have any fur. I mean, nothing. So now they're getting a better selection. So there was a creamy white, which would be nice if you want a blonde wig, but you don't just want white or yellow. It's a real nice creamy white, so it's a good option for blonde. So I got a 1/4 yard of that. So that was all at Joann. Then I found, oh, just a lot of notions. There's snaps and, of course, grommets for the doll cases. The interesting thing that elastic cords, just skinny ones. The interesting thing, that I found that I'm going to try, not in this video, but in one coming soon, is I posted the pattern for the overalls, but I didn't have any of the little metal attachments for when the straps hook to the buttons. So I'm going to try this until I can actually order some. I think I'll look online. There's an eBay seller, mimiwoo. I've bought lots of things from their store over the years. Very good seller. I've never had any problems. Everything is always shipped and gets here relatively quickly. Good prices. I think they had them on their store for the little tiny overall clasps. But in the meantime, until I can actually order some, I got 2 kits for the extenders and the little hook and clip for bow ties, or like a little necktie that you're not actually tying, but it connects in the back. So the one little loop, or the one little thing has a hook, which I won't use, but the other one is shaped, oh, here, I'll grab paper. Oh, here, this one's white. So the other one is shaped, because I don't want to open the packages, I would lose the pieces, like this. So I'm going to take the fabric through here, and then this will be where the button will rest. So I'm going to try it. because there's this little piece that could go on the end of the actual strap, and then there's the double link attachment that looks like this with the bar in the middle that you can attach so that you could actually lengthen and shorten the straps. So I'm going to try those because I know if I get the links from mimiwoo, I don't know if it would come with this other little attachment, you know, so you can lengthen the strap, or if you have to buy those separately. I don't know. I have to research that. If I find them, I'll put the link to their store down below so you can check it out if you want to do that pattern. In the meantime, I thought I'll try these because I can make these work. So that's just an option. I'm always looking for things that will work that I have easy access to. So, and then of course I had another one of the bags because I like to. So that's just kind of what's coming up for the little overall set on what you can do for clasps. If you're not comfortable buying things online and you don't know where to go, how to use that. So those little hooks for the bow ties will work great. Next item is I went ahead, and because I did have some troubles, as I mentioned, making the yellow coat, there was something kind of weird with the sleeve. So when I measured, I found some things needed to be tweaked, and I found one thing was that the sleeve opening wasn't as large as the edge of the sleeve, where if you're gathering a sleeve and you want puffy sleeves, you know, at the top, you want your sleeve to be bigger. But on that coat, I just wanted it to fit. So I've lengthened that. I've also kind of fixed the collar and done some rework. So I've revamped that pattern. I have everything here. I will make them into a nice pretty pattern so that it will look like, or did I already do it? Oh, I already did it. I'm ahead of the game. Okay, well, let's grab these out here so we can show them to you. Is that it too? That's the shirt, I believe. Okay, so what I did is I widened it just a little bit because it was very narrow. I adjusted this curve on the side piece that goes between the front and the back, like the mid side piece. Adjusted that angle a little bit. I marked which corner actually attaches to which corner on the sleeve, so it's easier to know where you're going to start. So I also rounded the corners of where the side and the back come, because part of that's open and I like a rounded corner, so we added that. Let's see, and then the collar, where was the collar? The collar seemed a little odd when I was putting it in there, so I lengthened the collar a little bit and I changed the shape just to where it would actually kind of come up the way I want a collar to come up. And I also reduced the neckline on the back of the jacket. The shoulder pads are the same. And then on the sleeve, I found kind of one of my issues was that the sides of the sleeve were not even. So I've evened those up so that now when you go to match the hem and sew to where the sleeve comes together under the arm and go down the side, it should match better. But I'm also going to try that and see how that goes together. But I got that adjusted, so I will post the revised version of the pattern on the website if you want access to that. So that's one thing I was working on. So I'll stick those out of the top. So that's ready to go. And like I say, this is my scribble one so that I can actually use this. So I'm going to be putting that pattern together and see how that fits and sews together in comparison with the first one, and then I'll let you know. Then for today, well, let's see, I guess we won't move on yet. Next, I'll be right back. Okay, so the next item is the doll cases so that you can see what they actually look like. I thought I would open one up and we can take a look inside. There, now it's maybe too bright, but my son keeps going behind a corner and behind the clouds, and so here we go. Let's open up the doll case. So this is what they look like when they're finished. So I actually have this one done, and I have the taupe swirl, which is a white background with taupey colored swirl, like a paisley swirl, kind of looks like it. This one I have the doll stand to match. so it would come with it. The drawers are, let's see if we can pull one out here. They were snug, so, which is good. You want them to fit in there, because as you use them, then they get more and more worn. But they're just little drawers. They're finished inside and out, and on the bottom as well, all the way around. So they're covered, and so they fit into their little shelves. There we go. The shoe rack actually comes out, so you can remove the shoe rack and move it over if you want to. If you want more length for a series of long hanging items. Then on the shoe rack, these are elastic to hold shoes. So that's what goes in here. Let's see if I can get it back inside. So there we go. I'm just going to stick it back in its spot. So these drawers they're all glued in. They don't come out. I mean, the drawers come out, but the shelving doesn't come out. But the shoe rack is removable. Then it has 1/4-inch dowel rods that are the closet rods. So as long as your hangers will fit on a 1/4-inch rod, then they would work. This case is mostly designed for 15 to 17-inch dolls. This is the 50-centimeter Obitsu. I'm not sure what her actual measurement is in inches. Let's take a look. So I feel like Mary Poppins. Here we go. This is, she is roughly 20 inches tall. So as you see, with a 20-inch doll, the doll won't easily fit in the case, but her clothing would. So her clothing would be able to hang in there, and her shoes could go on the rack. So if you just needed it for just a wardrobe, it would work for a larger variety. But if you actually want to store the doll, then I think the entire case is 18 inches tall. So you want to go 17 inches. So anyway, this one's all finished, and the taupe is also finished. Should I show that one? I guess I can. So let's go ahead and close this up. The case closes with ties. There we go. So we'll tie it shut so the case or the stand doesn't fall out. So they just close with ties that are secured in there, and then they are hinged with the same cording that is a crisscross design on the back. So this is the taupe case, and I don't have a stand done for this one yet. I was going to try to get a stand done for this case to match as well, but this has the taupe color, and then all the shelving is the solid. And then of course this one, the shoe rack, can also come out, and they're finished, so they look pretty nice. So there we go. So put that back inside. There we go. So we have the 5 small drawers, 1 larger drawer, yeah, and shelving on the top. So a couple people had mentioned, and I really always liked some of the doll cases I found that the Tonner Company did. But I think I bought one, no, I've bought 2. One was for the little kitty, the tiny kitty doll, and then one is a more retro design that matches, the case design matches this cup. So of course when we found the cup, we had to get the cup. I think this was at St. Vincent de Paul, a second-hand store, and my daughter found the cup. She said, it matches your case, and I said, put it in the basket. So anyway, I have one that matches that, but those are the only Tonner cases that I could ever manage to get. And so I thought, you know, I've got to be able to come up with something. So here's an alternative. They're very light. On average, they weigh about 3.5, 4 pounds empty, compared to some of the other doll cases you see on the market that are made, you know, manufactured in with more wood and things, and those can weigh up to like 10 pounds empty. So these are a lot lighter. So if you want something that's light and a lot less expensive, then there you go. So I'll go ahead and put those on eBay. Someone asked me how long they take to make. If I'm only doing one, they take between 35 and 40 hours from start to finish. but if I'm doing several and I can kind of assembly line, then they don't take quite as long. But it's just all hand cut, all hand measured. I drew out the design, and yeah, so it's not a kit that you can buy, it's just my own doll cases. So anyway, so that one's ready too. And before we get into our project, I can smell something burning on the stove, so I'll be right back. Okay, so the house is not on fire. My daughter was cooking a veggie burger and it got a little overdone. So, to our project. I was going to make the red leather pants with the zippers on the ankles. And then I decided, no, I don't think I want red, I'll do a different color. But before I decide that, I want to make the patterns. So when I'm going to make a pattern, I like to use packing paper that I get in a lot of packages when I buy things. And it's about this wide and usually about as long as the mat. And it just comes, I've received lots of it if I bought a doll, or if the girls have bought things online, or if I got some contact paper one time and it was packed with a bunch of this paper in this big box. So this paper, I like it, it's big, and I've gotten tons of it in packages, so it's nice and big for making patterns, so you might like that. So I went back to the basic pattern set for the resin sole, 70 centimeter male, that's on the website if you'd like to download that. And I got the pants pieces. Now if you were to cut these out, I did add the seam allowance. If you were to sew these, you're going to get a really, really tight bodysuit. You know, so I mean, if you want a protective bodysuit for your doll to wear underneath clothing, then you could just use them as is. But I want to make a pair of pants. So I know that I want these to be like a skinny leg pant, and so I'm not going to add a lot of width to what I have here. But I did make some changes to the way they're put together. So we'll start with the back. I can get that here. So I just laid this on my paper. I added about a ½ inch of length because these are they go kind of right to the ankle of the doll, so I wanted a little more length. I added just a little bit on the outside. It looks like about ½ inch to what is already here, and I made the crotch go a little bit, come out a little bit from the pattern, which actually makes it turn in and give a little bit more room under the bum. And then I also, on the back pieces, where the crotch comes up, I made that a little bit higher, and it will come down to the front so that the back is higher than the front. Because you're working with a resin doll that is very stiff plastic product, then when they go to sit, then they use up all that give in the pants and you end up with a plumber. So I wanted to make that a little bit taller to alleviate a little bit of that. And then of course I marked where the zipper is going to be. So that's what I did on the back of the pants. On the front, I didn't really, because I'm working with the faux leather, I really didn't want a dart or a pleat. And so I measured what that would be if there was not that, and just made it a little bit more narrow. So from the sides, between my fingers there, it's a little more narrow, just so that it kind of accommodates for that. And it kind of rounds around on the waist, just because I took it in without using this. I just kind of measured what that would be so that it would be about the same. And I added the fly. I also want to have an inset pocket. On here you can see also I just widened just a little bit as it goes down the leg and has that extra ½ inch on the length. Then for the pocket, well, there's two back pockets and a waistband, and here is the inset pocket piece for the front of the pants. So to put the pocket in, you sew that curved pocket edge right side to right side, then trim this with a quarter inch seam allowance, then trim that to 1/8, flip it to the inside, so it would flip around this way, and then you're going to fold that remaining back towards the side, so that produces your pocket right there. But because I'm using the ultra leather and it's really thick, that's going to put a lot of layers on the top of the pant line when you try to put in a waistband. So what I did is on the pattern you'll see there's also the option for a pieced pocket. So this piece would be cut out of the ultra leather. This piece would be cut out of a thin fabric. So with the right sides to right sides, you'd sew it just like you would normal. Flip it in here, but then you're going to want to make sure that the right side of the ultra leather is what shows. If you don't want to bend this seam back, you can always add that piece to the pocket once the pocket is attached to the pants to make sure that you have the correct side of your ultra leather piece showing, so that you don't sew it backwards and then have the raw side show. And then this would be just a thin piece of fabric between those two layers of ultra leather, and it would just lessen the bulk that's going to end up being in your waistband. So that's what I did for that front pocket, and that's the way I like to work if I'm using the ultra leather. The other thing, I'll tell on myself a little bit, I was going to make these red, and then I thought, no, not red, I'll go ahead and make them black. So it was really late at night, and I got out all my ultra leather, and I was getting the pieces ready, and then I realized it's not the black, it's I think it's called Pearlized Midnight. So it's like a shimmery dark blue. So well, they're going to be some fancy pants. So I cut out the waistband, but when I'm working with the ultra leather, you can't really lay it on top of each other and cut two pieces at once because it slides. And you don't want to pin it, because once you pin ultra leather, or vinyl, those holes are going to stay and they can show because they're not going to go away like in fabric. And so you don't want to puncture it. So I actually just lay my pieces on the back side of the ultra leather and draw them. I just trace around the pieces and draw them on. So the most important thing to remember when you're doing your pieces is that when you have it turned to the wrong side and you draw around your piece, be sure that you flip the piece over before you do the other side, or else you're just going to be sewing two of the same side of your pants. So you'd end up with, if you tried to put them together, you'd end up with the front on the back. It wouldn't work. So you want to make sure that you just flip that piece so that once they're cut, and if you wanted to lay them together, you would have two pieces that would lay right side to right side and be symmetrical, that they match there. So the other thing about ultra leather is that usually there's one way that's going to be just like the length ways like this, but then there's going to be a little bit of a stretch on the width. So you may want to make sure that the stretch goes across the garment rather than up and down. I mean, unless you just want it to stretch up and down, but then you want to make sure all your pieces are consistent. So when I cut the pieces, I just make sure that my stretch is all cut the same way, going across the garment rather than down the length of the garment. So there we go. So there's our pieces. The last little tidbit on these pants is that I am going to do belt loops, but I don't want to try to fold and finish all these edges on the belt loops because again, it just adds so much bulk. So what I did is, let me find the one that I already did it, is I just took a black Sharpie, because this is a real dark color, and I just used the edge of the Sharpie and went across the edge like this, just to darken so that I don't have that raw edge fabric color coming through when it's laying over the top. So that way, see, there's a couple pieces I maybe missed a little spot, but that way it'll be nice and dark, and if it turns, here we go, then it doesn't have that kind of brown edge on it showing. It just looks nice and dark, so it'll look nice. And I can add stitching if I want to, just to make it look a little more finished. The first thing I'm going to do to get the pants ready, of course, if you've watched very long that I like to do prep work, but there isn't a lot on the pants. So I'm going to start in by putting the pockets onto the fronts. Once those are sewn on, just to make sure that I get the ultra leather sewn the right way, I'm going to do this step first, then I'll attach that to the pocket. So I'm going to sew that at a 1/4 inch seam, then I'm going to trim that seam allowance to 1/8 of an inch. Also, I'll probably run this edge and the bottom edge through the serger machine, because those will kind of be free floating inside the pants once they're done, and I don't want that to fray. Have the pockets put in, I'm going to just stay stitch the very top up here within the seam allowance and then on both sides, just to hold that in place so that it's all one piece now with the pocket in. And here's what the inside would look like. So that thin fabric has been stitched in here, so now it's just basically the 2 layers of ultra leather rather than 3 that would be really thick and heavy. So this way it just keeps it thinner, using that light cotton as a liner, so to speak, in that pocket. Once those are stay stitched here, I'm going to go ahead and put these together, and I will be sewing the crotch seam in the front, which will sew like right here and stop about here. So I'll just be sewing that, and then once that's sewn, I will trim to 1/8 of an inch right here and trim this in to where that 1/8 of an inch comes. Then when the pants are open, since they're male pants, they'll overlap from the left, so this seam allowance, or the fly, will be folded over to the actual center seam. It's just going to be folded over flush, so it would look like the center front, like this. On this side, since this is going to overlap this, I'm only going to fold this over 1/4 of an inch and just stitch straight up, so that this side will have something to actually overlap. And since this is ultra leather and doesn't fray, you wouldn't even necessarily have to fold that over, because it's not going to fray anyway. So however you want to do that is fine. But you'd want this one folded straight up from the center, because that's going to overlap and make the center front of the pants. Then I come down and I stitch, there we go, I stitch straight down here. And then since the pants will be put together, then I'll stitch a little angle just to make that fly look correct on the front of the pants. Once that's done, I'm going to be working on putting the zippers in the sides. pair of pants. I will do the back, the center back crotch seam first, and then do the side seams, and then put the inseam, or hem them, then put the inseam, and then do the waistband. But because I'm going to do zippers, I'm going to be doing the side seams first to get that zipper in so that I have plenty of room to maneuver my fabrics. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew from the waist down to the notch where the zipper will be placed, and then I'm going to leave this open. Now normally when I put in a zipper, I would sew down to here and I'd back tack, and then I would baste the edge just to hold those firmly in place so that you can put the zipper in. It's a little bit of a challenge with this because I don't want to baste, because when I take that basting stitch out, it would leave holes in the fabric that would show. So I'm not going to be able to do that. So I'm kind of debating. I think I'm just going to have to carefully place the zipper in. Sometimes my ideas get a little too rambunctious. So I'm going to sew down to this mark, and then I will go ahead and be opening that up. Well, I'll top stitch that down to help it lay flat, and then I will be working on putting in the zipper. So I'm going to do the side seam for both sides. Then once the zippers are in, then I'll go ahead and do that crotch seam, so then I can flip the pants right side out to do the rest of the, like the waistband, or I guess the inseam would still be inside out. But anyway, so I'm having to go a little bit different than normal, so it's not quite my groove, but we'll go ahead and try it. Okay, so now the front is put together, have the pockets in, the front put together. I've added the side seams and top stitched, but I only sewed down to the mark. So now I'm going to be putting the zippers in at the sides. So my zippers are black, even though this is like a metallic dark blue. I've got black zippers because I'm using black thread. So now I'm going to have, of course, the zipper towards the outside of the fabric, and let's see, yeah, these are both the same kind of zipper. So I'm going to place the end of the zipper above where it's split, so it's going to be placed where I've top stitched across. So that's going to be my guide. Now the challenge is that I'm going to be placing that there sounds like a lot of descriptive terminology, doesn't it? So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a seam allowance, and I'm going to be sewing on either side down to the hem line, but I want to make sure that I've only got 1/4 of an inch folded under, and I'm just going to be top stitching straight down to actually sew that onto the zipper. So it's kind of a challenge because you want to line up the fold with the actual center of the teeth of the zipper, but things can get really squirrely and they can shift on you, especially when you can't pin your fabric. So I'm going to try to get that as close as possible so I have a nice little seam, trying to match this as close as possible. Of course it'll end up being bigger just because it's hard to maneuver. So that's what I'm going to be doing, is sewing down either side to actually attach the zipper on. Once the zipper is attached on both sides, then you can unzip and open the zipper and move the zipper head down here, and then finish off the ends with beads or just fold it over so that this wouldn't, just slide off the end. So that's going to be the next step, is trying to just lay that in there and stitch that right on top so that it looks nice and neat where your zipper is. So I have to do that on both sides. So here we go. Let's see how it goes. So yeah, it worked pretty well. And so I got both the zippers in the sides, and I also hemmed. A couple notes in working with zippers, especially these because they're metal. So when I go across here, if you notice in the video, I'm only using my hand. I'm not using my foot pedal, because you have to gently lower the needle so that it's going between all this metal so you don't snap your needle off and break it. The same thing when you're doing this hem, I get as close as I can to those teeth and then back tack and come forward, and so it just ends up, you do a couple things by hand. You're going really carefully around all this metal so that you don't ruin your needles, because it's really easy to hit a needle and have that snap, and you don't want that to snap and break your needle, let alone, you know, fly up in your eye or something. So yeah, both the zippers are in, and so now I just need to, and they're hemmed, so now I'm going to turn the pants inside out, and I'm going to sew from one hem up the inseam to the crotch, and then down the other side, and then the pants will be effectively done except for the waistband. So then I'll just put the belt loops on the waistband and put it on. I was going to have pockets, but I'm running out of lights, so I'm going to forego the back pockets. Yeah, I'm not going to worry about the back pockets on this pair. So no back pockets, just the front inset pockets. And then I'll put the belt loops on the waistband, because I do want belt loops on this. And then I will go ahead and finish it up. Okay, so I got the waistband on, and I went ahead and I did stitch a little bit over the belt loops so that they're small, but they could take a thin belt. And then I also top stitched along the top edge just to kind of hold that in place so the belt loops wouldn't be kind of floppy. I did find that the pants were way too big, and because this is ultra leather, I mean I can overlap plenty so the front looks okay. But because it's ultra leather, you can't really take it apart and redo it because of all the holes issues. So I had to kind of compromise and put in some darts in the back just so that they would still be usable. So this is something that I would be happy to keep and use. I probably wouldn't sell them unless somebody just really likes the look of these weird blue pants and would want them. But they're totally usable. So I think on the pattern, all we have to do is add the dart in the back, and then of course, you know, your waistband will be plenty long enough, and just trim off the ends once you put it on there. So yeah, so the pattern, other than it needing the darts in the back, it worked out really well. And you know that's exactly how it's going to fit, just because this doesn't fray, it doesn't really stretch that much. So it gives you a true picture of what the pattern pieces would be when you put it together. So there's the pants. So if you want some skinny pants with zippers on the sides and pockets, then there we go. So yeah, I'll go ahead and make that adjustment, add the darts in the back, and like I say, also if I hand stitched, I could put the pockets on the back and hand stitch them into place, and that would probably cover up those ugly darts so that it would just be the seam right here that's kind of funky. But anyway, it didn't mess up the belt loops, so a belt would cover that, pockets could cover those darts, and yeah, it would be okay. Totally a usable pair of pants, and kind of a cool sheen. So there we go. So there's a new pair of pants if you want some skinny leather pants with zippers on the side, and there we go. So I can't think of anything else I was gonna let you know about. So yeah, I think that'll wrap it up, and I will see you next time. Bye.